So my name is Sven, and as you mentioned, I'm working for an Italian company, and I'm the head of R&D, so I can play the whole time, and this is quite nice, because then I can do something like this. But I'm earning my money since 1996 with Java, and I had a few different companies I was working for. And who of you is working on 6 months projects, greenfield, deploy it, never touch it? Okay, mostly I get this answer. So someone of you is working on code that you're owned by someone or that is coming from another team member? Nobody, okay. One question, I'm talking about Java. Anyone, excuse me? No? No. What no? No Java? Oh, okay. But the main thing is that it doesn't matter where I was working. The main thing is that quite often I have to get and work with huge old systems. And after a few years, for example, in the moment I'm working on a part of a product that's more than 15 years old and grown and grown and grown, and now it's my part to clean up. So feel free to imagine what this could be. And the main thing is that quite often you have only the JVM and the core JDK, and with this you have to try to find ways to decouple, to find a way to make it more modularized or more cleaner. So there are some evergreens with design pattern, and one of these is these are proxies. The main thing is that with proxies, if you start working with this, you have this feeling that you're going into water and you're feeling comfortable. And after a few days or hours you're working with this design pattern, you have the feeling that there's more and more and more and more with this pattern, what you could do. So, but what's the main target of proxies? So proxies you can use to write generic parts of your application, but you can use it to divide in different pieces, and the most interesting thing sometimes is hiding technical stuff. So, but writing proxies is not so easy. So if you have team members that are not so good with Java, then sometimes it's better to have an understanding how to present your solution. So if you're working with proxies, it would be nice if you could do something like this. So you have a, oh, don't worry. You have a class, and maybe you have an interface. Everybody learned at universities you need interface to decouple. Yeah, sure. Maybe you need it. So, and then it would be nice if you could do something like this. I have a proxy builder and create for this instance and this original something that will have logging, that will have metrics, for example, or maybe you have security rules around this. Please don't ask if this rule makes sense. Okay? Don't ask. But it could be that you have more than one rule, and it's important that it's first rule 1 and then rule 2. So the order, or first logging, then metrics, or metric, then logging. And if you have done all these decisions, you could say, okay, build. Give me the proxy. This would be nice, oh? Okay, I will show you how to get this. Otherwise, it would be nice, someone of you is working with dependency injection. Okay, CDI. Plain DI, something like Juice, Dagger, Boon, self-written stuff? No? .NET? Oh, okay. So it would be interesting if you could do something like this, and mostly the dependency injection frameworks are not able to give you this freedom so that you can customize. You have something like a virtual proxy, a lazy, but you can't say, okay, it must be a virtual proxy, and it must be with metrics. So params for proxies are not very common if you're using this. So it would be nice if you're doing this. But the main thing, what I'm getting is mostly that the people don't really have the feeling what's an adapter and a proxy. So the first thing is, I will explain what's not a proxy. So if you have an adapter, I'm always talking about adapter with delegator. You have different adapters, but I'm talking about adapter with delegator. And this means So, can you read source code like this? Big enough? Big enough? Perfect. Sometimes smaller. Okay, so we have something like a legacy worker, and sometimes it was nice to work with arrays. And now you have this library and you have to use it in a different project, and they say no arrays. Or the name of the method is not good with naming conventions or something like this, so you start writing an adapter. And this is what I'm calling adapter. It's only something like transforming the method signature, nothing else. So if you're implementing this one, the only thing, and this is important to know, is that you are only transforming from the old signature to the new signature. And there's only the transformation. There's no calculation, no other things. And then you can call it adapter. But there's one interesting thing. The adapter and the legacy worker will have mostly the same lifecycle, the same time of creation, and the same time of not using anymore, mostly. So this means you have here, for example, the array. This will be transformed to a collection or a string, and the only thing you're doing is transforming this stuff. Then it's called an adapter. Okay, and you have an instance of this legacy worker. And the main difference to a proxy is that the adapter is not inside your inheritance. Why? No idea. Same with me. No, the thing is that you want to hide this old method signature. You don't want to extend. So it's good that it's not inside the inheritance. And the proxy is exactly the opposite. This means, what is the smallest proxy you can write? But first, how to use an adapter, and the same thing would be here. You would say, okay, I have a new adapter. You don't know something about the legacy code, and then you're working on the new signature. So in this moment, you don't know, or you don't need to know there is a legacy worker if you're working with adapters. There is no inheritance between both, so an adapter is nothing you can put into old legacy code because you have to change a lot of stuff. Okay, so, and please use it like an adapter and call it an adapter and only change the method signature. So this is the adapter, but what is a proxy? The minimum proxy you could have. What we have to do to come to a proxy. The main thing is we need to know the legacy worker, because what's a proxy? Another maybe German word for proxy. Stellvertreter, right. Maybe someone will translate it. Okay, this means you have inheritance. Definitely you have inheritance, because otherwise you can't inject a proxy somewhere else you can't touch. And then don't use it like an adapter. I quite often see that you're building a proxy, call it proxy, but then you are using it maybe more or less like an adapter, and this is not cool. So now, time to come to code. I expect I have a service, whatever this means, and an interface with one method. And I have some implementation. With this implementation, I'm writing the minimal proxy, and this is that. It's a proxy, it's inside the inheritance, it will have a delegator, and will delegate everything to the new one. So this proxy is quite useless, be sure. But it's a minimum that I can call proxy. And now we will start extend what could we do with the proxy itself. So if you're working and for example, if you're reading from university some things about design pattern, all this stuff, the first thing what they're doing, they make it more like science. So you have groups, you have hierarchies and all this stuff. So they started doing the same with proxies, and we have some main groups with proxies. One of the easiest one is security proxy. The security proxy, well, I have this implementation and I want to build a security proxy. What's the main thing of a security proxy? Any ideas? Check authorization, yes. And what's the biggest problem with the security proxy? What's the biggest question you have to find an answer for? No, this technical stuff. Try to think more generic. You have an old legacy system and you want to implement security and you say, hey, come on, security proxy. On aspect with security stuff, what does it mean? You have to find an answer for one question, and most people don't think about it. The right thing is that you only want to execute if it is allowed, whatever this means. Doesn't matter. And I don't want to give an answer how to find the answer. But the main thing is, I have to make a decision, and this is done here. For example, I have the delegator, I have the part that will make a decision, whatever this means, and then I have this here. If it is allowed, I will delegate. But what will happen if it is not allowed? So the biggest problem, if you want to start with security proxies or insert security proxies in an application that's still existing, is what is the right answer if it is not called? Do you want to work with exceptions? Well, maybe, maybe not. If you want to give something back different as null, maybe, maybe not. So you have to think what's the right answer if it is not allowed, and what's the design pattern you have to use around. So sometimes if you're thinking too late that if you want to use security proxies, this could still be a problem. And then, well, whatever this means. Think about it. Okay, the next one, that's a quite easy one. It's more or less an example for hiding technology. It's a remote proxy. Remote proxy, what the main thing that you want to have with a remote proxy? Execute outside of my process, so crossing borders. That means if you want to use it, it's something like this. You have a remote proxy and you're working on this. What's the biggest problem here? Well, the main thing, what I am expecting is that it's a synchronous call. Otherwise, I have to explain why this is not synchronous. Okay, I'm waiting. The next thing, you have a bunch of developers. Who's talking with his neighbor at work? I think with a colleague. Oh, 2, 3. Well, same in Germany, so mostly the people don't talk with each other, maybe chatting. They're sitting in front and asking, do you want to have a coffee? Yes. Okay, do we go now? Okay, make a calendar entry. Okay, so this means if you don't say someone or naming is bad, then they're using it like a local instance. And this means that you have a lot of remote calls and nobody's expecting this, performance issues and so on. So this is that you're using is like a normal local stuff. We need some work. For example, what else you need instead of, okay, you have in JDK, what else you need to build a SOAP entry point? For example. Anybody knows what SOAP is? Something before REST. You need nothing else because it's inside the JDK. So, but, well, let's see. If you have something like this, I see interfaces and then I see technical stuff here because I need this for the implementation. And this is not what I want to have. If I want to have an interface, I don't want to have technical stuff there. So mostly if you're working with remote proxies, you have to solve technical problems. So make sure that you have one more interface, that you put the technical stuff outside of your business interface. But I quite often see this, then they're changing technology, and then they're changing API. Great. Same with implementation. If you're working with the implementation, you have a lot of technical stuff. So on the implementation side, do the same. One more indirection, put the technical stuff there, and then work on the real business stuff. Delegate one more. By the way, you can do it with a plain JDK. You don't need more. So I had a project there. They have servlets and with SOAP, and they bootstrapped a huge EE cluster, whatever, a huge server. And then I asked how many requests you have. 200. Okay, per minute. So it was not so much. The easy thing was throwing away the whole EE server and put a dedicated thread pool, started an endpoint from JDK and say run. and you don't need anything. The only thing is you have your implementation. This is the implementation with technical annotations. And on the other side, to get this, you have something like this. I don't want that you understand all this stuff. The only thing what I want to show is that you have this technical influence interface here, and then you have a lot of technical stuff there. That means if you're executing once, you're working locally, but all this stuff is technical. So this means remote proxies are mostly, the target for this is hiding technical stuff. It doesn't mean what kind of technology. This is only an example, and this is the example that fits on my slides. That's the only way or point why I use this example. But the main thing is if you have remote proxies, you are hiding technical stuff, and hide it in a way that's really hidden. So, well, the main thing is you have remote communication, and basically it's technology-based work. The pattern itself is quite boring because nothing is only technical stuff, and the main goal is that the developer don't see remote actions, but you are expecting that a synchronous call, bidirectional, and so on. Okay, these are the two groups that are more or less boring and quiet, fast explained. Now we are coming to a group that is the real powerful stuff on this. What could it be? I'm talking about virtual proxies. Virtual proxies, what the main goal of virtual proxies? Until now, I always was talking about that the proxy and the delegator will be created at the same time. And with a virtual proxy, you can divide it in two parts. So you can have something like create the delegator later. Whatever this means, you can decide now it's the right time to create the delegator. And you have different strategies to do this. But the easiest way to write it would be something like this. You have something, a virtual service, and you say the delegator will be null. And with the first invocation, you will check if there's an instance. If no, create it. If yes, work on it. Okay, there are some things I don't like. This is the main thing. Delegator is null at this point, and you will create it with the first invocation, whatever this means. What is bad here? What's bad here? Okay, something like this. So cascading proxies, I will come back later. Okay, something else? There are some things I don't like. The first thing I don't like is this one, because it's not thread safe. So this is not good. Okay, next thing I don't like is this one. A fixed decision for an implementation. Hey, come on. If I can decide it later, why have a fixed decision? Makes no sense. And the next thing, what I don't like, what could be a problem, especially if you're working with legacy code. I don't like this one. Why? I could combine it with a factory pattern, for example. So putting all this stuff together means I would rewrite this. So now I'm building the same stuff, not thread safe. So first one, I will get rid of new. New means that I will introduce, for example, a factory interface. The only thing that you're doing here is creating the instance, not the decision what's the right time to create. It's only how to create the instance. And inside you can make a lot of decisions. The next one is, I want to have different strategies. What's the right time, or how many instances? It's a pooled instance, it's a singleton, it's a whatever. I will introduce a strategy factory and then divide it. Mostly the people are doing this hard-coded, and then for every combination they're doing the same. So here I will start. So what could it be? This one would be only Java 8 syntax. So it's this new operator. The next one would be implementing something like, it's exactly the same. It's not thread safe. But that means that here you're saying not new, you're asking the factory. And you will get the factory. That means if you have different strategies and different factories, you could put them together in different ways. And then you have only one implementation of the strategy and one implementation of different creation of factories for different implementations. If you're using this, you have something like this. You have a service proxy, you have the service factory, you have to know how to create, what's the right strategy. This you could choose dynamically, for example, if you're playing a little bit around. And then if you have a call, what are you doing? Please return. Ask the strategy factory, what's the right time to create a real subject? If it is the right time, create it and work on it. That's it. Now we have divided it in different parts, and this makes it quite flexible. So if you want to make a synchronized version out of it, the easiest way is creation will be the same. You don't have to write something new, and here you only have a, it's an easy example, but imagine you can read read-write logs or stamp log or whatever. So, and this would be thread safe. Now you can combine those in a way you need. But you can play a little bit more around with this. For example, you have old legacy code that's not thread safe, or it's mutable and whatever. So you say, this I could create easily, but with every invoke, I want to have a new instance. Then you know the instance will be stateless, or with a fresh state, or whatever. So you can use this to create a method scope one. It's easy. If you need it or not, I don't know, but you can do it. Okay? And then you can decide, for example, okay, you can create a pool, for example. If you have 10 instances, use one of the pool, or create the pool, decrease the pool, whatever. So with all these proxies, what is the biggest question? You have different combinations of these proxies, and now there will be one question, what are stupid combinations? Any idea? The problem is I see this quite often. The first one that makes maybe not really sense is creating a virtual proxy. So going remote, creating a virtual proxy, and then decide you don't want to call the method. So the combination of proxy will be interesting, and the same having a virtual proxy in front of. This means it must be a way of cascading proxies. Yes, we want to cascade proxies, but how to find out what's a good combination of proxies. So make sure that the people that are using your proxy builder, I will explain a little bit later, only produces good combinations of proxies. But to make it easy, we only check how to combine two proxies, a secure virtual proxy. If I'm doing it in this way, first, I will have a virtual proxy in a way I explained a few minutes before. And here is the right implementation. I have a virtual proxy, and I call it a virtual proxy. Then I would say I have a secure virtual proxy. This means, okay, first secure, then virtual, and it's a proxy. Please call it in this way and don't mix it up. And the easiest way is putting here the virtual proxy inside. But what's the problem here? These proxies are hardwired. We want to get rid of it. So what does we need? We have to change something, because I don't want to make all possible combinations for all implementations I have. The main thing is that I need something like a generic proxy. Anyone who's coding daily in your job with Java 8, 7, 6, come on, 5, 4, okay, I don't ask anymore. But since a few minutes or weeks, we have JDK 1.3, so since this, we have the dynamic proxy. Anyone who knows what the dynamic proxy is? Okay, not so much. So the dynamic proxy is something like, so I have to reduce slides because we have not so much time. The dynamic proxy will give you a generic proxy, so that you have something to build a proxy and don't have to write it by hand, by yourself. And this is here from the Java-lang reflect proxy. There's a package. The reflect package, okay, what's going on here? The main thing is you need an interface. There are some other limitations, but one of these, you need an interface. If you don't have an interface in your legacy code, you can't use this one because you can't introduce an interface that you can pull in. Okay, and we need implementation that I'm delegating through, and then we are doing this. Clear, oh? Yeah, step by step. Let's see. We have service class cast. So I'm casting to something. It's from JDK 1.3, so the return value will be object, not type T. That's the point. I'm going to proxy and say I need a new proxy instance. I need a class loader. I define a class loader. With this class loader, you will find everything you need. And please implement the following interfaces. It's an array of interfaces, one or more than one. And then you have something like an invocation handler. The invocation handler is something that is like an aspect. It's going around in method invocation, and this you have to implement. So this is more or less the invoke, the reflection invoke. So if you're doing it by yourself, you're doing the same. So you will get from this invocation handler the proxy and the method you want to work on. And this means here will be the part where you can put stuff in, and that will be executed with every method around. So it's reflection, and you have the way of dealing and working around this. And now you can build everything, a remote proxy, a virtual proxy, a secure proxy, because we have the same logic, but inside, and you have to code it here in a generic way. Okay. Oh yeah. How to make a virtual proxy. This means, if I have this stuff, I will go here. This is all the technical stuff you have to write with this invocation, and here's a place to jump in. So you say, my invocation handler will have a delegator, and I will delegate here through. If it is null, then create. So I have exactly the same, but the most important thing is that I know I'm able to write generic proxies, but there are some things I don't like. By the way, if you're writing it with JDK 8, you can write it a little bit smaller. I will show it. So there's the service class, there's the service class, and this one. This I don't like. Why? I can get rid of it, huh? So this I can get from outside. The next one I want to get rid of it is this one. The implementation is hard-coded in the invocation handler. It's not generic enough. So this I will remove. And the next thing is that this one I will get from outside too. So the thing I will delegate. So finally, I will call it a proxy generator, and then I have a generic proxy generator of type T. This means it will look like this. I will say I will work with generics. That's it. So there's all the green. Anyone here who can't see green or red? Yes? Okay. So this one, this one, this one, and this one. Okay, sorry. These are nearly the first slides I've done with this tool, and before this I had only black and white, easy text one, and then I thought, okay, it must be something more with so blinking stuff, and this is a reduced stuff. So the first version was horrible, so it was more like a comic. Okay, I will get all this stuff via generics, and then I can do the same. So I can say, okay, please, I have the subject, it's a class, I have the real subject I can use, I can cast through this. This is a generic way. And the same I can write with lambda expressions, proxy generator. Well, this I skipped. But the main thing is I have a proxy generator, I have a method, make proxy, and I will get both, the interface and the real subject. And then everything is done with this method call. This is quite easy. This is the lambda stuff here, by example. If you see something that's looking strange, like C, it's lambda. So this means now I'm able to write proxies with a few lines of code, and the main target, what I could reach with this is that with dynamic proxies, I'm writing less in generic code. This is a good thing, and I can do all the proxy stuff I have done manually, but there are some goals I have to reach. One is how to combine proxies more generic, because until now I have the same interface combined. So both is service. It was a virtual service and a secure service, but both on interface service. So how to combine it? This will be a question, and the other thing is, will be an invocation handler thread safe? What's going on with bytecode? Sometimes you don't want to have bytecode manipulation. Okay, but let's see. So how to combine proxies? If I want to combine something, I have to leave the factory pattern. What could be another pattern, creation a pattern that is more flexible in this way? Come on, everybody's using it now. Sure, everything is Fluent API and a builder pattern. So I've done the same. The main thing is that I want to combine a security virtual proxy. So you have, if you start building proxies, different ways of combining it. So you can say one security rule with both, one security proxy with both rules and one virtual proxy, or you can start with two security proxies and one virtual proxy. If you're starting with proxies, make proxies as small as possible. One target, one proxy. Don't combine too much thing. It makes it only a little bit more complicated. Okay, so now I want to build a cascaded proxy. How to build everything together. If you're going through this, you have different ways. You can go top down or bottom up. For me, it looks like, but maybe it's only my way of thinking with patterns, the bottom up way will be easier to combine all these things. The main thing is that a child must know his parent. Okay, I can delegate. And first, I want to build this with dynamic proxies and with the same interface, only to see if you can combine it. We are already done with the time. Woo, okay. So slides will be follow up. And maybe I will show you this example so that you have this one. Okay, security rule is the interface. It's a functional interface that makes stateless. That is a good thing. Then you have a bunch of rules. If you have a bunch of rules, you have something like, okay, do something for every rule. And now it's a more important thing. Remember of this dynamic proxy stuff. The main thing, if you have a proxy builder, get the last original, this one. And this is the last child. If you have the last child, work on it, work on this child. And after this, set the child for the next level. So recursive direction. And if you're doing it in this way, you can put all the proxies together with dynamic proxies, and quite easy to implement this stuff. And this will be used in a way, transition to slow, so. And then you can build something, what I mentioned before. You have a proxy builder, you can add different things. And you have a dedicated method built to say, now it's the right time to combine everything. Oh, 5 minutes, including discussions. Okay. So, what we have here is that we have only Cascade for one interface and how to deal with different interfaces. The main thing is that for this, we will need something like a nested builder. I will give you only the idea what's going on. You can follow up all this stuff. I have it online and all the slides you will get. You have this one, and mostly you will get with something like a builder. You can generate it. No? You have a car and you with engine, with wheel and all this stuff. So if you want to combine different proxies, you have to think, okay, if this engine would be a complex attribute, I would generate, for example, a builder for this one. And then for wheels, how many wheels a car will have? It depends, no? This is an Italian car. Okay. Yeah, they have cars with 3 wheels. I saw them a long, long time ago. But the main thing is, you have to create all this stuff with different builders and put this together. So this is what I see with if you're using a builder pattern, and this makes no sense. You can generate all this stuff quite easily, but combining both is bad. So the first thing you have to do, so the source code will look like this, and this is not what I want to have. I will show you now what's going on with the builder itself. I want to go through something like this. So let's imagine you could combine builders in a way that you could switch between builders. And this would be interesting. So this must be get rid of. And so we have something like this. You have a builder, you say add something new. You are now inside a different builder, doing whatever you need, and you're switching back to your parent builder. And this means that for all this instance, you could, well, I will put it on top. You could combine this. Here you're switching to the wheel builder to create a wheel, and here you're switching back to the wheel list builder. And if you understood how to do this one, you could combine everything. This means if you're putting all this together, so we have to combine all this now, and then we are done. Oh, I love this stuff. Perfect. I was definitely playing enough with this. I don't need. And here, look, it's perfect. Okay, so what I want to have is something like this, and this is more or less the end. From the idea how to combine proxies, there are much more things, but I want to have a builder, and then I want to switch between different builders. If I have this problem solved, then I could switch between special proxy builders, and then I can do something like, okay, I have a new metrics proxy, and this will customize with A, B, C, back to the main proxy, and so on. Okay, time is more or less done. So I will share all this stuff for you. If you are interested, I prepared something more. I have open source repositories where you can see all this stuff. What I was talking about was the RabbitPM proxy builder. So there's everything and much more from the stuff in source code, so you can play with JUnit and see what's going on. This I was using to implement something like a dependency injection framework, and this is, hey, come on, microservice, huh? Everybody needs it now. So you have a lot of stuff here available. The slides will be online too. Feel free to ask. It was a short time to go through proxies. Definitely not enough time. I would say at this time, thank you, because my time is done. Feel free to ask, and yeah, start playing.